Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Sustainable Scoop. School safety is on the minds of many people throughout the country, but probably not more for any group than young people. Joining me today to talk a little bit about the mind frame of young people is Marya Michaels. She is a former school teacher. She's also an author, and she's an inspirational speaker and a life coach. Is that right?
Exactly, yes.
Thanks for being with us.
I love to be here.
Well, Marya, the reason I wanted you here is because we need a little bit of guidance. Our children seem quite distressed these days. What do you think is happening with the young people, not just the ones that are marching, but the ones that aren't?
Well, it's a pretty broad answer I would have to give to that. But to be specific for what I would see as the problem in general is that children are actually superbly ingrained in how to love from a very young age. I mostly taught young children, and they speak the truth if we allow them. And I believe that a lot of the upheaval that's been happening in the past few months, for example, where the children, especially the teenagers, are speaking out, it's about really aligning with the power of the heart, with what I call the gut, the truth. What is going on here? Would everybody please wake up? This is our lives. Why aren't people listening? And so I think overall it's in the air, even if there are many children who are quiet and aren't speaking up and have no need yet. There's an awakening, I believe, happening. And some people are actually giving voice to that. Luckily, a lot of the teenagers are doing that now.
Well, I think it's wonderful that they're raising their voice. They're also, though, limited on what they can actually do. That said, you and I were both at the March for Our Lives. We talked about it. We texted. You were on the other side of the march, and we never did connect. But we did talk to a lot of people, and we have some of those interviews. So we'll go ahead and play those interviews, and then we'll come back.
Great.
So you're prepared for lots of things, right? When you go to school, you got your books and your pencils. Mentally, how do you prepare for gun violence?
For gun violence? Well, to prepare for it?
I don't have any advice other than if you hear something, hide.
How would you feel if your teachers were carrying guns?
Scared. I think that we should make a stand, and we don't need guns to feel strong.
How can you not be moved by those young people's words? What are you getting from there? Because to me, it seems like there's a lot of confusion.
There is a lot of confusion, and the children are very good at surviving, especially when they're more resilient when they're younger in many ways. Having taught young children for almost 30 years and some intermediate grades, I did see that tendency for children just to buck up and make things work. And I think that's what they're trying to do, to their credit right now. The young boy who said, kind of stammered and said, I don't know. How do I protect myself? And he was trying to come up with a solution. We're really putting children in an impossible place to try to come up with answers. But I think the best thing that parents and educators and citizens at large can do is to support children to keep their voice alive, because children tend to speak from all of themselves, from the mind, the heart, the power, which I associate with the gut, that gut instinct. They can't do anything but that if we allow them to do it. And I think they're here to teach us. I've often said children are my greatest teachers, because they're not yet weighing them, or they're not yet weighed down with the baggage from the past. They're not carrying the fears that many adults do, because we've lived so long.
So maybe, I guess one of my biggest fears when I was at the march was thinking, what if nothing happens? What if nothing changes and all this hope and all this determination gets squashed at this young age? How do you keep that passion and fire burning and not let it turn into disappointment and anger?
It's a great question, and I think that's our responsibility as adults, to do everything we can to encourage children to speak out, to have a balanced life, to enjoy life some, not be so driven only with academia, which tends to be the nature of education a lot. We need to also stay in balance ourselves, because we don't make very good guides for children when we're stressed ourselves.
And I can't say how these circumstances come about, but it is a very stressful world right now. And with all the input and social media, I think a lot of times there's a great deal of disappointment. And I guess what you're saying is having fun and feeling joy is something everyone can do.
Exactly. Right.
Well, how do we bring that out? How does an educator who knows that their classroom is a little tense, or maybe they hear something that's either makes them concerned or they feel like their students might need to talk about it, how do they do that while staying on course?
Well, I think it's the responsibility of every teacher to actually give themselves time to relax. I personally practiced meditation throughout my teaching career. I don't know how I would have gotten through it and taught as well as I did, even though I could always have been better. That's the way teaching is. You're never quite good enough in your own eyes. But I think that teachers, the nature of the profession, without any issues of violence, is very, very stressful. And to give as much as we can, we have to stay in that centered place. And of course, parents need to do the same thing. In a place of feeling like everything's set, we're good to go, and that's it.
So this kind of exercise or spiritual practice is something you do. You help people to kind of find their joy and their center. And part of what you've shared with me, and I had the opportunity to read, was your book, Fire Love, which I think is like a prescription for the soul. Tell me a little bit about, can you tell me a little bit about what motivated you to write the book?
I will,
Yeah.
I will, yes. Basically, my work with children kept my heart open. They were such magic in helping me to stay in that place. I didn't exist in an office where things were too serious all the time. And so they were, again, great mentors for me in that way. And what I would call my own path, my own life journey, was a lot about how to stay in that centered place, and it led to a deeper place with the heart, which I felt was core to understanding life and to enjoying life more.
And right now, people really need that. So this is for parents, for educators, and also for students. How do they get in touch with you?
I have two websites. The first is MaryaMichael.com. It's MaryaMichael.com. And the other is SpiritualCoachingForChildren.com. And it's just like it sounds. Basically, that is about helping children to identify who are you, what are your gifts, how do you fit in.
This is very important. This is a very important message right now. So I certainly do encourage people to take a look at your websites, read your book, and I hope you'll come back to see us again.
I would love to.
Thanks so much for your contribution. We need to feed our heart and our soul right now. And I want to thank all of you for watching the Sustainable Scoop. I'm Miriam Gennari. Back to the news desk.